Lubbock is guaranteed to have a new mayor for the first time in 6 years after the upcoming municipal election. There are 5 candidates vying for the seat. Tonight, they will answer questions about key community issues, many of which were submitted by citizens.
Candidates, tell us why you are running for mayor of Lubbock.
Mr. Hernandez, please begin.
Yeah, so Adam Hernandez, and the reason why I decided to run for mayor is one of the things that actually sets me apart as a candidate in this race. So I got involved in advocacy in the summer of 2020 to push for the revitalization of my native East Lubbock community. This is where I grew up, spent most of my life, as well as historic North and Central Lubbock inside the Loop. That then led to me advocating with and on behalf of communities all across Lubbock around various issues ever since that time. In the process of doing that work, I was recruited by citizens and community leaders to consider running for mayor. So this was not something that I ever had an idea to do myself. I've never had any political ambitions. And the only reason I ever got into any of this and remain in it is because I'm passionate about using my time, energy, experience, and skills to serve the communities of Lubbock. And I've proven that, and I believe that's why those folks have confidence in me. And so that's why I'm here in front of you today.
Candidates, how closely have you followed city council meetings and developments in the past?
Yeah, so for the past 2.5 years, I've been attending pretty much all of the city council meetings on a monthly basis. That's work sessions, that's regular city council meetings, as well as several different boards. All of this is involved with my advocacy work, which I do on a weekly basis. And so I'm at City Hall often. I've also been attending for the past 10 months the Lita and Market Lubbock meetings to learn more about what we're doing to draw businesses here and keep our folks here and better our economy. And I've also recently started to visit all of the department heads so that I can more fully understand how the city operates and how our city government operates. And so I've followed it quite closely. And that's another thing that sets me apart pretty clearly in this race. And so, yeah.
The next question is, if elected, what would your priorities be as mayor?
Yeah, so obviously the youth involvement in drug and gang culture is kind of what's leading to a lot of the crime that folks are seeing on the news and things of that nature. Obviously, working with LPD to continue to try to mitigate things in the immediate term. But one thing that I've been working and communicating closely with LP&L and several other entities on for the past 1.5 years is trying to work on some things that we can do for prevention to keep these kids from getting into that kind of lifestyle in the first place. And so there's some things that we could do with youth sports, for instance. There's mentorship things that we could do. There's a lot of things that the city could help out with in that direction. Another thing is what got me into advocacy, which is revitalizing our older areas of town. There's no reason why our city can't continue to see the growth that it's seeing, wherever that may be, and we can't take care of what we already have at the same time. There's no reason why we can't do those two things. So we must do that. And then the third kind of thing is just general department services issues. For the past 2.5 years, I, on a monthly basis, visit all of the neighborhood association meetings. So I'm very tapped into the community and their concerns. And so there's some things with code enforcement, with solid waste, with animal control and animal services. And a lot of those, they're dealing with the same issue, which is being short-staffed. And so what I'm proposing is that the city could do monthly job fairs at the Civic Center. They could have all the departments there. They could also open invite it for other businesses who may need employees and do that on a monthly basis indefinitely, because we need a lot of folks and a lot of those jobs are going to be high turnover. And so none of the services are going to get better until they have the staff to do that. And so those are my priorities.
A bond package that would have funded needed road repairs throughout the city failed during last year's November election. That work is still needed. This one comes from a citizen-submitted question. How will you see infrastructure projects through completion, and how else could the city's infrastructure be improved?
Yeah, so when the bond election, before it even hit the dais in front of the city council, I caught wind of it, and we essentially asked them from the very beginning to have the citizens involved from the very beginning. We asked them to do a citizen bond review committee, which is what has been done for every single bond election prior to that. Then when it got onto the dais, I then made about 3 public comments to that effect, essentially begging them to do a citizen bond review committee and get the citizens involved because we needed this work. A city our size should do a bond election every 6 years. At that point, it had been 12 years. We're now coming on 13. And so they didn't do that. And in my opinion, that's a big reason why it didn't fail. Obviously, Broadway was contentious. So what I would do, because again, the work needs to be done, and these are public safety issues. If you talk to our fire department and our LPD, they will tell you that. And so this needs to be done. But what needs to happen is create a citizen bond review committee, have the citizens involved in the process from the very beginning. The city can put forth their ideas of which roads and why they chose those, and then citizens can put forth what they would like, and we can hash it out, and you won't have to sell it at the end. You can just go vote it in. And so that's what needs to happen, because we're about hundreds of millions of dollars behind in that. And now, because we missed the low interest rates and all of that was going on, we're going to pay a lot more and get a lot less for our money, unfortunately.
Lubbock has a rich religious heritage. Those roots tell us that the community is judged by the powerful within. It's not, but by the conditions of its poor and powerless. That's how it's judged. What specific plans do you have to improve the conditions of the living poor and the powerless in our city?
Okay, yeah. So as far as the homeless situation, I know Chad and Open Door well, and one of the things that the city needs to continue to do is support their efforts in a housing first model. That based on the research, and again, I listen to people who know more than I do in these situations, and so according to them, the housing first model for homelessness is the best model to get people off of the streets. So that's homelessness. Now, as far as in communities, you have to have a city council and a mayor that's concerned with it. And you have to have a city council and a mayor that acknowledges where we have challenges with these issues. And our historic East, North, and Central Lubbock areas have problems with these issues. And so we have to be mindful of that. As far as something that I've already done, and I will continue to do things like it, is last year I began to hold what's called the East Lubbock Empowerment Conference, because it's not going to just take the city and our county institutions. It's going to take people. It's going to take the community side as well. But sometimes the community doesn't have the resources and the mentoring and the coaching they need to know what those things are. And so we started to hold the East Lubbock Empowerment Conference to get our community health right, to get our economic health right, and to get our civic engagement right. Because with those 3 things, any community is empowered. And so you have to have the community empowered from the community side, but you also have to have them empowered and backed up on the city side. And as far as these issues, especially with youth getting involved in gun violence or people being poor, things of this nature, these are very complex issues. So we have to continue to foster and build on the collaborative relationships between the different entities, county, city, state, and everyone.
We've seen many changes in Lubbock's utility services in recent years, including Lubbock Power and Light's transition to the ERCOT power grid. This is another submitted question. What changes, if any, would you like to see at LP&L as we will soon transition to a customer choice market?
Yeah, so what I hope will come out of it is probably the most likely outcome is anytime you bring competition to any market, the general outcome, excuse me, is better pricing and better practices for customers. And so I would be pretty positive that that's going to happen. Now, as far as the fate of LP&L, itself, that right now it's not fully decided if LP&L is just going to be the wires company, if we're going to be what's called a provider of last resort. They're leaning towards just being the wires company. If that's where we go, then a third of your bill is going to be from LP&L still. LP&L is not going to go away. And then the other 2/3 of that bill will be whichever company you choose. And again, I'm hoping that that brings better customer service, better transparency with these businesses than it has been felt with LP&L, better pricing. Not as, when you're a monopoly, you have the go ahead to pretty much set the prices anywhere you want. So I'm hoping that will go away. And so, that's pretty much it. Hoping that it will be better for customers.
The next question, if you are elected mayor, how would you encourage residential and commercial development in our economically disadvantaged communities like those in North and East Lubbock.
For time reasons, I'm going to add to that. How do you balance that with growth in newer parts of town?
Yeah, so we actually were the group that advocated the most heavily in the city for impact fees. This is one tool that cities use to combat this issue. And the reason for impact fees is so that growth can pay for growth. And impact fees that get paid in whatever area they get paid in have to be used in that area for the next 10 years. The issue that we have with a lot of the Southwest development prior to impact fees is that developers didn't have to front any of that money for the infrastructure, your roads, your sewer, water, all of that. And so what that ended up doing was being on the backs of the taxpayers, all of it. And so now with impact fees, that mitigates some of that. Also, those roads, when they come up, before even the notes are paid off, those roads are going to need maintenance. We don't have the money for that. So that's why impact fees, that's one way to help. Another thing that we've advocated for and looks like it's going to make it through is in the Unified Development Code. We've asked for what's called mixed use overlay districts. Back in many years ago in Lubbock, including East Lubbock, you could have a house where you could live in part of that house and you could have a neighborhood friendly business in another part of that house. And that went away with urban renewal, which devastated East Lubbock. And so we are going to bring back mixed use overlay districts to help folks that can be able to start a small business in their home. That helps with those. Another thing is to have a tight partnership and communication with LISD so that we can help them to stop closing neighborhood schools. This is something that devastates neighborhoods and causes population drain to other parts of the area, and we've seen that over the last 10 years. As many schools have been closed over the last 10 years. And so now as far as paying for things, the city of Lubbock has recently hired a grant writer. I think we need several of those because the city has three ways to pay for things: taxes, bonds, and grants can get a lot done.
All right, again, in the interest of time, I'm going to expedite us to our last question. Lubbock is an increasingly diverse city. What would it mean to you to represent both citizens who agree with you and those who see things differently?
Yeah, so what it would mean to me to represent the entire city would just be a continuation of what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years. I've been uniting and mobilizing folks across the city in every community you can imagine, across every political spectrum you can imagine, and I will continue to do that. Now, when I think about what it means to me personally, this would be huge. I would be the first Hispanic mayor, obviously. And the reason why I'm even able to sit in this position and run for this position, one of the major reasons is Miss Rose Wilson. And so I think about her because she was the plaintiff on the case that got us single member districts. Before that, it was all at large, and we never elected anybody that wasn't white. When that case got won, the very next cycle, we elected our first Hispanic council person and first Black council person. And so when I think about that, and I think about the support I have from Ms. Rose and the love I have for her, I just feel, I would feel very proud and honored.
For more information on voting, visit votelubbock.org. And for more local election news coverage, visit ttupublicmedia.org. Candidates, we want to thank you for participating in tonight's West Texas Town Hall.
Also, we want to thank you for coming out to this forum and being a part of this discussion that we've been having. Thank you.